Been wanting to cover this for a while, and now he's coming to Washington, so I have a reason. Trump to meet with Argentina's leader as U.S. moves ahead with bailout. President Javier Milei will visit the White House on Tuesday after the Trump administration agreed to provide Argentina a $20 billion lifeline. Now, what the New York Times is not cool enough to mention is that this is part of his world tour. He is, of course, known as El Cantado Diablo in Argentina. He's a wonderful rock singer. Here he is just last week.
Imagine starving to death on the streets and knowing this is what your president's doing.
Yeah, no. Makes you very proud. Very proud to be an Argentinian. It reminds me of Nick Cage and Wild at Heart. You fellas have a lot of the same power that E had. Now, I was very against rewriting books to be politically correct. They were going and rewriting Roald Dahl. And, one thing I would give to people like Milei is that they were against all that. But no, man, as soon as these guys get in power, they start revising the literature. So now they just released a new Argentinian collection of Ayn Rand's work. And they changed the whole title. Atlas needs you to spot him like $20 billion. Come on, man. Come on. I thought we were just going to let these works speak for themselves. Come on.
First Argentinian edition.
Yeah. What's that about? Yeah, that's only in Argentina that you can get this version. Yeah. So, it started off really, really promising with Milei, and I can really understand why people felt he was the guy to solve decades-long and deeply entrenched economic problems in Argentina. Here he is on the campaign trail in his superhero suit. Kind of his thing. He likes to sing for the Argentinian people. Los ingresos no aguantarán más. Iremos al Banco Central y eso será inflacionario. I just can't believe this guy was not able to solve the Argentinian economy. Who could have seen that coming? But hey, man, everybody loves this guy. Here's Trump. I think this was back in September. Highly respected president of Argentina.
Highly respected.
Javier Milei has proven to be a truly fantastic and powerful leader.
Esteemed
statement and outstanding singer.
An underrated superhero, Javier Milei.
Advancing on all levels at record speed. He inherited a total mess with horrible inflation caused by the previous radical left president, much like crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our nation. Yet he has brought stability back to Argentina's economy and lifted it to a new level of prominence and respect. And you know how he does, on and on and on. But hey, man, not just Donald, not just... I like the cut of your jib. You seem like the kind of guy who's going to filter all the income and productivity gains in your country up to the top 1%. I think we can agree on that. Let's have a smoke. So yeah, no, man, it's a big club, buddy. You ain't in it. And look at all these out. Oh, the free press. Well, that's really fucking promising, isn't it, with Barry Weiss over at CBS? But to be fair, this was Niall Ferguson. And this is July. Now, what's really interesting about Niall Ferguson writing an article about Milei's man-made miracle, this is not his first bailout. He got $20 billion from the IMF in April. This is the second bailout. What miracle are you talking about? Where are the bailouts for Venezuela? I thought Venezuela is a failed system. They haven't gotten any bail. What? So why isn't this a failed system? When the guy a few months into this libertarian fantasia had to go crawling to the IMF. I thought these people don't believe in socialism. You see? You understand? They do believe in socialism, just not if it's going to help you. They
Right.
believe in socialism for fucking criminals on Wall Street. That's who gets socialism, not you. Look, New Republic, Reason Magazine. Isn't it funny that all of these, not so National Review, I mean, not so much National Review. That's going back to fucking William F. Buckley days. But you look at the Free Press, you look at Reason. They're really in that kind of like manosphere podcast, bro, anti woke thing. That's the purpose. That's the purpose, to get people who are hostile to authority to actually support the New World Order, to actually help to bring the New World Order into being by telling them that they're strong and powerful by aligning with fucking criminals like Milei, that these people are actually cool and are fighting against your cultural enemies. They're fighting against cultural elites. I don't know, man. If you take somebody who's got $100 billion as not a cultural elite, I don't know what to tell you, man. Yeah, they're just folks, people with $100 billion. You have common interests with those people. That's how they made $100 billion, by worrying about people like you. That's how they got that rich. Now, this guy, they're going to tell you, is crazy cuckoo pants. This guy's crazy cuckoo pants. Maduro over there in Venezuela, he's the worst. He's got a country that's being sanctioned by the EU, sanctioned by the United States. And this is going back to Chavez. This is going back over 20 years it's been sanctioned. How long's Cuba been sanctioned? Since the late 50s, since the Cuban Revolution. They'll tell you that these countries and their economic woes demonstrate that they have a failed system. Now, you could litigate the positives or negatives of their economic philosophy, but the fact that these countries, particularly Cuba, have survived as long as they have, while having as its arch enemy the world's most powerful nation sanctioning them up the wazoo and using all of its diplomatic leverage to get other countries to sanction you. The fact that Cuba has survived that suggests that it's actually a very strong system.
Right.
System would have to be very strong to survive that kind of hostility. Can you imagine what it might be like if it didn't have to contend with all of those obstacles? What would Venezuela be like if it weren't sanctioned? What would it be like? Milei got in there within a few months. He needed $20 billion from the IMF. A few months after that, he needs $20 billion from us. So which is the failed system? Which is the failed system? Where are all the hand-wringing articles in CNN about how libertarianism is a failed system? Where's Bill Clinton giving a speech about how Milei is a crackpot dictator? Where is that? I don't see it. I haven't seen it. Seen any articles like that, Keaton? Now, this is Maduro speaking at a BRICS meeting about Palestine. Every time a high-precision missile hits an apartment building in Gaza and kills men, women, and children, every time a missile falls on Beirut or falls on southern Lebanon, those missiles set fire to and destroy the United Nations system. Where is the International Court of Justice? Or was it created only to prosecute the countries of the South? Where is the United Nations justice system? Just to get documents, communiques, and the lives of Palestinian children have no value? Let us raise our voices forcefully and seek a practical and bold plan for a refoundation of the United Nations system, which is in agony in the face of Nazi and fascist currents throughout this painful historical juncture. Okay, so this is the guy they want you to believe is the crazy cuckoo pants, dangerous dictator. We got to blow up fishermen because of this guy. Here's the guy that they tell you you should support. That's the guy getting $20 billion. Sure, he's crying. He's crying. He never had pussy like that. He's crying fucking that long. Look at him. Look at him. Not even Jewish. He's crying. All right. Do you see who they elevate and who they denigrate? And do you see why? Do you see why? Look at this fucking freak. Look at this freak. Anyone who tells you to take that freak seriously is somebody who you should regard, if you're a working person, as your bitter enemy, as your bitter class enemy. Even if you have issues with the system in Venezuela, which is none of your fucking business unless you're Venezuelan. But even if you have issues with that system and sure, you can litigate that. But just objectively, which one of these people seems like a credible leader to you? And which one is being glazed in the media? Now, to be fair, very few people have gotten it on with that wall the way that Milei did. He really went balls deep into that wall. But Ivanka went pretty hot at it too. Maybe they should have a wall off those two. That's I think she found that G spot right there, man. She's licking up on it. So this is Scott Bessent, who, by the way, was George Soros's right-hand man. Whenever we cover him, I always want to mention, man, Trump's people. I heard them for years talking about how George Soros, they still do. They talk about George Soros runs everything. I don't understand how you didn't realize the fix was in when George Soros, his right-hand man, got appointed the Treasury Secretary. Like, what did that tell you? Didn't that tell you this is all a charade? Didn't that tell you that Donald Trump actually serves George Soros, serves the interests that George Soros represents? It's all a show. It's all a show. It's just two different ways of corralling people in the same direction. So here's Bessent talking about this bailout.
Makes sense? Should we be doing this?
Well, first of all, Joe, this trope that we're helping out wealthy Americans with interest down there, couldn't be more false. What we're doing is maintaining a U.S. strategic interest in the Western Hemisphere. America first doesn't mean America alone. And look, when you have a failed state in South America like Venezuela, now we are having to track down and blow up these cartel ships. So you
have
create
to
another failed state.
They're making you do it.
Milei is working against history, and he's done a fantastic job. And I am sure that when we see the elections this month, that he's going to do well, his party will do well, the Argentinian people, especially the young people. What's encouraging...
That's not what the polling says. One of the reasons that you're having capital flight, so it looks like Milei is going to lose because everything he's done has made things worse for the average Argentinian person. It's great for very wealthy investors, which we'll get to that.
In Argentina, it's the young people who made the decision not to impoverish their nation. And as far as what the U.S. is doing, just to be clear, we are giving them a swap line. We are not putting money into Argentina.
Okay, now to be fair, there is some leaked audio. Bessent was very angry because he persuaded the IMF to bail out Argentina the first time. And he did tell Milei, he changed his mind. He did tell him there wouldn't be a next time. They had a very heated phone conversation. It just leaked today on X.
There's not going to be a next time, you fucking dumb. Wait. Take it easy when you talk to me, okay?
I told you a long time ago, you fucking little monkey, not to fuck me.
Hey, who the fuck you think he's talking to, huh?
So, so that was a couple months ago. I guess they reconciled. But in all seriousness, this is why this whole fucking country is getting a bailout. This is actually why it's getting a bailout. Trump's Argentina bailout enriches one well-connected billionaire who happens to be very close friends with Scott Bessent, someone who made him a lot of money back when he worked for, guess who? George Soros. It's all connected, man. Okay, little bit on this. Last week, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced a $20 billion package to rescue the Argentinian economy. The risky taxpayer finance deal, which involves trading U.S. dollars for Argentine pesos, has little upside for ordinary Americans. Argentina is not a significant U.S. trading partner, and its economy, long in turmoil, has little impact on the United States. However, Bessent's announcement had massive economic benefits for one American, billionaire hedge fund manager Rob Citrone, who has placed large bets on the future of the Argentine economy. Citrone, the co-founder of Discovery Capital Management, is also a friend and former colleague of Bessent, a fact that has not been previously reported in American media outlets. Citrone, by his own account, helped make Bessent very wealthy. Since Javier Milei, a right-wing populist, became president of Argentina in December 2023, Citrone has invested heavily in Argentina. Citrone has bought Argentine debt and purchased equity in numerous Argentine companies that are closely tied to the performance of the overall economy. Due to Argentina's massive debt load and chaotic economic history, in 2023, Argentina's inflation rate was over 200%. Citrone purchased Argentine bonds with an interest rate of nearly 20%. Citrone has declined to detail exactly how much of the $2.8 billion he manages is invested in Argentina. In early September, days before Bessent's announcement, Citrone purchased more Argentine bonds.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
There you go. There you go. And I'm sure he's not the only one. I'm sure he's not the only one. In fact, I know he's not the only one. That's it. It's socialism for the rich. They are not going to let these people's investment go down. Why do you think they make these risky investments? Why would you invest in a country with a 211% inflation rate at the time that Milei took over? Because Bumblebee Man says he's going to fix the economy. Why would you, as a savvy investor, put billions of dollars in that? Because you know your friend Scott Bessent over at the Treasury is going to bail you all out when it goes sideways. That's why. It's a big fucking club, and you are not in it. These people are criminals who belong in jail. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not your ally. They are your bitter, bitter enemy. Now, this was a very good article about this in Current Affair. Alex Skopik wrote it, actually. So, you know, people talk about this is so successful, what Milei has done, because for a while it pumped up. Now it's collapsed. For a while it pumped up the GDP and it has brought down the inflation rate. But that is very misleading. We experienced that in this country, right? They tell you how great the GDP is doing. Are you doing great? Are the people you know doing great? Because GDP is a bullshit measure of how well the economy is doing. GDP can be very high because a few rich people are doing well. Doesn't mean the economy is doing well. So here he explains that. GDP fails to capture the distribution of income across society. So you can have situations where a nation's GDP is strong, but most of the income being generated is concentrated among a small elite, and the average citizen doesn't see much benefit. But more fundamentally, GDP doesn't even show the production of goods and services as such in objective physical terms. It doesn't count how many potatoes have been harvested or how many people are able to rent apartments. It only counts the market value of the transactions when goods and services change hands, which can be subjective and arbitrary. So praising Javier Milei because his economy had shown growth on paper, as Niall Ferguson did, is largely pointless unless, one, that growth consisted of real physical objects and services, and two, the proceeds were actually reaching ordinary people. It's the kind of thing Joe Biden's strongest soldiers kept doing online in the 2024 election when they'd post graphs showing increased GDP and say that the Biden economy is just booming, even though in real terms, homelessness was hitting record highs and people were defaulting on their credit cards in record numbers. To put it very simply, I had at one point I was doing a show and me and my musical director were so broke, I would lend her $20 and she would lend me $20. We always felt it was like a mystery. It was like the loaves and the fishes where that $20 kept coming from because neither one of us had any fucking money, but we kept lending $20 back and forth. But you know what? I give her $20, she gives me $20. The way they measure GDP, that's $40 in economic activity.
Right.
No fucking real money there.
Right. There's no wealth.
There's no wealth. Exactly. Now, this is about how he brought down inflation. And this, as an American, you should really listen to this. This is why I wanted to take such care with this segment. This is what they actually love about Milei. Milei is acting as their agent in Argentina to put their ideas into practice. It's a laboratory for creating the techno-feudal world that they want. This is why Bill Clinton likes him and Donald Trump likes him. Why do you think that? You think they don't see he's a fucking fruitcake? Of course they know he's a fruitcake. Only a fruitcake would use their country as a neoliberal laboratory for criminals to show like, okay, well, how much can you just make people poor and homeless and maintain an economy based on the people at the top doing well? That's what this is. Okay, this, when he breaks down what Milei did, it's going to sound like Trump's economic program to you. This is what they're doing here. This is why they like this guy. Milei's cuts were not the kind of careful, well thought out ones that could actually be helpful. And they were not directed at government spending that was genuinely excessive or wasteful. Instead, as Nick Cornbishley writes at Naked Capitalism, Milei slashed spending on public goods like education, healthcare, transport, and infrastructure, even getting rid of palliative care at the National Cancer Institute. If he got a reduction in inflation, it's not just because of the effect on the currency, but because he simply made a lot of people poor. As Cornbishley puts it, afuera, afuera, afuera. Cancer medicine, afuera, afuera. The economic pain being visited upon millions of Argentinian workers and pensioners is not an unfortunate byproduct or unintended consequence. It is the intended goal to impoverish workers and pensioners to the point where they cannot fill their shopping basket or buy even the most basic of necessities. If you starve the economy of demand, inflation eventually has to go down, which it has, albeit at the cost of almost killing the host. Meanwhile, Milei did not cut purchases of secondhand F-16 fighter jets from the U.S. via Denmark, price tag $300 million, and he lavished funds on the ever larger riot police operations needed to violently suppress public protests. You get it? You get it now? You get what ICE is about now? You get why they always have money for war now, but they don't have money for your health care? You get it? This is what they want. This is the world that they want to build for you. And people like fucking Benny in the Closet and, frankly, Alex Jones, a lot of these other motherfuckers, their job, Joe Rogan, their job is to keep you distracted with, white sorority girls doing choreographed dance numbers while they build a prison for you that you can't get out of. That's what they're doing.
Well, this is what
trying to
Doge
build
was.
a world like this.
This is what
Of
Doge
course
was.
it
This
is.
is Elon.
Of course.
Javier Milei is Elon's hero, not Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
He also started a $1 million initiative to improve diplomatic relations between Israel and several Latin American countries as the Gaza genocide strains those relations to the breaking point. These priorities reflect the usual right-wing worldview. Feeding, healing, and teaching people is not important, but hurting and controlling them is. Defunding cancer treatments is obviously ghoulish, but slashing education for short-term economic gain is just as bad. It's like eating your seed corn for next winter. Where are Argentina's future doctors and engineers and all the economic activity they generate supposed to come from? Exactly. They don't give a shit because their kids are going to get educated. They're stuffing money in their pockets. They don't care about you. That's why I keep telling you they're trying to kill you. They're trying to kill you. Argentina is a laboratory for how many people they actually need as slaves, serfs, and servants, and how much they can run an economy purely on sucking all of the economic benefits of the society up to the top. Now, this is one we'll probably do for movie night eventually. If you've ever seen it, you already know what this is from. The movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas, which is more and more prophetic as each year goes by. And you might remember, because the film was very self-conscious about being accused of being racist, they would go out of their way to throw things like this in. But you had a black guy outside of a bank holding up a sign, not economically viable, because they had turned him down for a loan. He's walking around saying, see, they won't give me a loan because I'm not economically viable. Now, you have a lot of people who will say when you bring this up to them, well, no, they can't just throw us all out like that and consider us all not economically viable because they need us as consumers. They need us as consumers. Who's going to buy their stuff? Who's going to buy their stuff if you get rid? No. They're going to do this to you. They're doing this to everybody. They're making everybody not economically viable. So this is a channel called How Money Works. It's a good like balls and strikes kind of economic analysis channel. And he explains, no, actually, they don't need you. At this point, they've funneled the money so much up to the top that they're just catering to the investor class. And you, people like you, presumably, if you're watching this show, people like you, people like us, you represent such a small part of the economy at this point, they don't need you anymore. That's why the stock market's off the hook. But you don't feel that, right? Do people you know in your environment feel it? So here he is explaining that.
Economic participants don't really participate in their own economy. In the past, when average people struggled, the economy struggled, and wealthy people riding on that economy struggled too. Today, we could very well be in a situation where the majority make up such an insignificant share of market activity that even severe problems for them can be effectively drowned out by the party being had by a very small handful of people. Now, as far as social cohesion is concerned, this isn't great. But for the economy, it gets worse. We could see a situation where unemployment rises dramatically, but the economy continues to grow, because all of those laid-off people didn't contribute much to overall consumption or investment. In that case, taking action like lowering interest rates or giving out stimulus to help the unemployed would risk further inflating already overinflated asset markets that didn't feel the pain to begin with, which would only make this problem even worse. Even the Fed essentially admitted that it was increasingly hard to enact policy that would help ordinary workers without helping out wealthy asset owners even more. In 2006, a series of reports were leaked from Citigroup's asset management team dealing specifically with ultra-high net worth clients. In these reports, they described a plutonomy, a combination of plutocracy and economy where economic growth is powered by and largely consumed by a wealthy few. In a plutonomy, there is no such animal as the US consumer or the UK consumer, or indeed the Russian consumer. There are rich consumers, few in number, but disproportionate in the gigantic income and consumption they take. The rest are the non-rich, the multitudinous many, but only accounting for surprisingly small bites of the national pie. Now, the actual intention of this report was to encourage Citigroup's wealthy clientele to invest in companies that catered exclusively to other wealthy clientele, because the analysts predicted that they would eventually be the only ones worth selling stuff to. And remember, this report was published way back in 2005. Now, of course, there is still one way that you matter in the economy, and this report covered that as well. Whilst the rich are getting a greater share of the wealth and the poor a lesser share, political enfranchisement remains as was: one person, one vote. In plain English, the biggest risk to their clients was that votes were somewhat evenly distributed.
All right. So that's a lot. All right. So that explains to you, if you've been saying, well, in the end, they can't get rid of us. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they can. They don't need you anymore. What's he saying here? This was written in 2005. This was 2005, and it wasn't a warning. It was a roadmap. It was a game plan. They wanted to work towards this. Now, that was Citigroup produced that report. Well, who gets elected president after 2005? Barack Obama, right? If you think that you have a way out through these two parties, or that in any way Barack Obama is fundamentally different from Donald Trump, who chose Obama's 2008 cabinet? Citigroup. WikiLeaks dropped a whole trove of documents. Everybody who wound up in Obama's cabinet was named by Citigroup as who they wanted in his cabinet. Okay? So they just produced a report like that. Obama gets in the middle of an economic crisis, and what does he do? He makes choices that take more money out of the pockets of working people and poor people, prosecutes people who on their mortgage applications didn't tell the truth, which was very common at the time. Nobody was really cared or checking. They were just happy for the economic activity. And he bailed out all those bankers, right? So what did he do that for? What did Citigroup want when they wrote that report in 2005? Where we are now. They're all serving the same fucking agenda. Trump works for the same exact people that Obama did. They want you to be a serf, and especially with the technology that they're developing now, they know they don't need you. That video, I would highly recommend it. Keith, remind me, I'll send you the link. We definitely have to put that into the description. He also talks about how, man, it used to be to produce like a report for a corporation, you needed a whole team of like skilled secretaries who understood how to do that. Now you do that with an Excel spreadsheet. So not only don't they need as many people to do these kinds of things, they don't need them to be as skilled, which makes them very disposable. So how did the kind of psychopaths that would produce a report like this with the premise that this is a good thing, what do you think they think about having more or less of you? They want this. This is what I keep telling you. They want you fucking dead. That is not an exaggeration. You are a useless eater, and they want less of us. It's right there in black and white. And it's very revealing that in this report, they describe voting as a risk to the investor class. They don't want voting. So how do they get around that? By controlling who stands for election and giving you an illusion that you're actually picking something very different. America first. Yeah, America. Fuck out of here. It's Citigroup first, no matter who you vote for. So this is worth revisiting for a second. If you're somebody who thinks that Elon is some kind of a renegade billionaire, why'd he get up on a stage with a chainsaw with Milei? I often reference this. Richard Pryor did that bit about how his grandmother would make him go get the stick to beat his own ass. That's what they're doing to working people when they go out on a stage with a chainsaw like that. And you go, yeah, chainsaw. What did he say? Chainsaw bureaucracy. What does that mean? What is bureaucracy for you? What, you waited online at the DMV? That's oh yeah, no more bureaucracy. What does it mean for Elon? What does it mean for Milei? It means no restraint on his class. It means the NTSB not getting up his ass when people burn to death in a Tesla. That's what getting rid of bureaucracy means for them. Why do they want that so much? Why are they so against the state? Because the state is the only actor in society that can plausibly put any restraint on their greed and on their power. Now, for them, That's a rational motive. For you, there is no reason for you to be anti-state in that way. And they know it, which is why they need the culture wars. They need the culture wars to give you some reason to back their agenda. Because if you stop for a second and you think about this agenda, of course they want to get rid of anything that's going to help you, and they want to get rid of any taxes and any government regulations that restrain them. They are trying to recreate the circumstances of aristocracy in a modern world. For most of human history, until very recently, that was the norm. You had a very small elite class enjoying the fruits of society, and everybody else was a laboring peasant. They're in a position where, because you're coming out of this very unusual period in history where there was this ideal of egalitarianism and economic prosperity and opportunity and equality, they have to get you to get the stick to beat your own ass. They have to get you to help them, because you can still vote nominally for what it's worth. They have to get you to vote to dismantle the last of the support systems in society that check them and help you. When he goes on stage like that with a chainsaw screaming, you clap for that, man. You're clapping for your own demise.
Well, yeah, obviously, and it's already here. I mean, you when you live in a place like New York or California, in these like centers of concentrated capital, you don't really, excuse me, see just how far it's gotten. But if you go outside of those zones and you go to these deindustrialized places, like St. Louis, for example, there's a whole city. There's no people there.
There's nobody
right?
there.
You drive through
Nobody there,
Pennsylvania,
man.
you drive through Michigan, you drive through Ohio, same thing. There's all these places with no people in them.
Yep.
Why? That is a way of filtering the working class out of the economy. They're literally just being filtered out. We're not just going to all drop dead all at once. You'll have an economy that meets the needs of people who are living right on the line. You'll have your fast food, you'll have your Dollar Generals, you'll have your gas stations and whatnot.
You'll be a slave.
But that's not real. That's not where the real economy is. The real economy now is private equity, luxury goods. I mean, that is essentially what it is. That's why we did the segment about why do all the fast food places look so nondescript now? What happened to the McDonald's with the play pens and the play pace, the play places, pardon me, and the playgrounds and the Pizza Hut roofs? It's because the real value in that to the company is the real estate. And so if a McDonald's location fails and you got a fucking building here that looks like a theme park, you're not going to be able to just sell that to a bank so easy, because the building can't be just easily repurposed into a bank. Same thing. So like the real economy is so detached from the day-to-day lives of ordinary people. That's a reality already. And, people who live amongst the wealthy don't notice that as much, because the wealthy want nice places to live. And so, they're forced to kind of keep some sort of semblance of functionality.
They put money into the West Side bike path.
Yeah, exactly. Like you want to have a somewhat functional environment to live in. The middle of the country, they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They don't live those there. Places don't really exist anymore in the way that they used to.
Well, and even when you go to those places, I mentioned that when I was there. Anywhere you go, pretty much, unless it's really, really, really fucked up, there's a gentrified section. There's a section like that in St. Louis. There's a rich part of town. Yeah. Like the people there who have money, they insulate themselves.
Yeah, you get a little place to go. But, the other thing is, too, you have hiring at this low point since 2009. Hiring is at the slowest pace since 2009. That's happening amid these great deportations that are supposed to be opening jobs up, right? I thought the illegal immigrants were taking the job. So if ICE is going around rounding people up, shouldn't jobs be opening up? Shouldn't hiring be booming?
Should be off the hook.
Shouldn't it be off the hook? No, it's not. Oh, because they were never going to give you good jobs. Oh, that's right. I remember warning people about that about a year ago. They were never going to give you a good job. They were never going to open up positions for you. This was never about creating more opportunity for Americans. This is about building the police state to suppress the population, because yes, we are all going to just be enslaved at some point. It's already happened. It's already happened to much of the country, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
You're
you look at the
gonna
conditions that most people live in. That is what we're talking about. That is what we're talking about, right? Because that has no bearing on GDP. The financialization of the economy means it's no longer about the flow of goods and services amongst the majority of the
exactly.
population. That has nothing to do with the numbers. It's nothing to do with the economic numbers.
And that was something else that video gets into. I didn't even know this. There are more hedge funds or financial services companies than there are fucking McDonald's. Than there are McDonald's. He said there's like 18,000 of those and 14,000 McDonald's. Like
Right.
it's an economy based on the consumption and investments of the elite class. And I think a lot of people are under the illusion they can't do that. They've done it. They've done
Right.
it. You're already there. What
Right.
jobs are there going to be? You're going to wind up like little Alex's gang in Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
A job for those of job age, the police.
Yeah. Yeah. And one more point about the immigration thing. Not only are the deportations not increasing hiring, they have no effect on hiring, seemingly. The other lie that's out there is that the degradation of American cities is because of an influx of immigrants, which is not true. The degradation of these cities is because of deindustrialization and immiseration of the working class and lack of investment, because the living conditions for most people just simply don't matter to the people who control most of the money. Their economy is in another world from your economy. They're not the same economy. Right. And Trump was the perfect guy to sort of hoodwink working people into believing that there was going to be some connection there. Why? Because, and our friend Anish Shivani made this point, and it's a very, very insightful point. Trump made his money in the physical world of building things, of hiring people to build buildings and to rent hotel rooms to people on vacation. There's something very analog in Trump's presentation. There was something kind of old school about it. He didn't code as part of the new economy, the information economy, the tech economy, right? There was something kind of the earth about the way he made his money. Not about him himself. He shits in a golden toilet, but I'm talking about the way he made money was by pouring concrete and building buildings and dealing with the laborers, right? And selling product, right? People can relate to that because that's how ordinary people make money and spend money. Right. And so he presented himself that way. And look, where it all became just so obvious to me, and I say this all the time, when Elon endorsed him and joined the campaign is when it became so obvious to me that this was what was going to happen, that this was going to happen. That kind of grubby populism and, you know, tech bro libertarian economics, those do not mix. Those are oil and water. That's a scam.
Please clap.